Drew, week 4 in the books, a quarter of the way through the NFL season already, guys. Welcome into Sports Around the Bar, your favorite sports talk show. I'm sure we've got a lot of action to talk about.
We do.
All before Sunday night. What a weird week. That's my first thought. What a weird week. And first off, terrible one for me, pick-wise. Absolutely in the toilet, so don't ever listen to me ever again. You heard it here first. I'm glad that my team somehow managed to pull out a win, even though I didn't pick them to.
That was the weirdest thing that happened.
No, the weirdest thing that happened this week is you picked the Titans to win. That wasn't anything that happened on the field, but you picked the Titans to win.
Oh, I just saw him join in. Ian, join in. Is he here to pay up on the beer bet, Jake?
I think he is.
Guess what the Chiefs did? They pulled out a W regardless how ugly it was. It's a win.
It is. And we talked about this before the show. A lot of people were saying Detroit was getting kind of short-handed in that game by a lot of the refs, and calls weren't going their way. I mean, the Kerryon Johnson fumble, which was the biggest one where he fumbled right in the goal line. Breeland picked it up for the Chiefs, ran it 100 yards back. When I watched it, Drew, at first, I heard everything where everyone's saying, oh, they should have whistled it dead, but that was all in the natural progression of the play. I think that was a fumble. I think the Lions just gave up on the play, and the Chiefs didn't.
Yeah, because I can't remember. One of the wide receivers could have tackled him right there. Didn't do it. Eric, what's going on, man? Glad you could join us.
Absolutely. It was a heck of a game. We'll talk about that in just a second, but let's start with my team first. That's just the way whatever we look at has everything ordered. We're talking about the Titans and the Falcons. This game, again, was pivotal for two teams going into this week, 1 and 2. What a breakdown, man. All I can say about the Titans is it was a great first half, and then Mike Vrabel made possibly the dumbest coaching error I've ever seen in my life. And let me ask you this. I'm going to put everyone in the audience. I want Drew to answer this. I need to know what you think. If it's 4th and 1 from the Atlanta 12, and you're Tennessee, and you have the ball, are you going to go for it when you're up 14-0 with 13 minutes left? Or by 14 points, I should say. Are you going to go for it on 4th and 1? Or are you going to kick a field goal and go up 3 scores? Because when that happened, I about had an aneurysm. I was like, they're going to come back. They're going to beat us because they can throw. And we're going to lose this game. I almost died. No. Jacob, man, good to see you. Let me know. Would you go for it on 4th and 1?
No, you kicked the field goal. You kicked the field goal.
Jeremy wants to know what is happening with the Falcons. It's very simple. They're not tough enough up front. Even though they sold out today to stop the run, they still couldn't keep Derrick Henry from putting 100 yards on the board. It wasn't sexy. He only got like 3.8 a carry, but he got there to the 100 yards. They were letting Mariota throw all over him. The secondary couldn't tackle anybody. I mean, look at some of those A.J. Brown receptions where he caught it. There were 3 or 4 Falcons around him, wow, and he makes a little cut and beats everybody. So I think secondary-wise, the Falcons are in a lot of trouble going forward. The defensive front's not that tough, even though Grady Jarrett looked good at times. A couple of their edge rushers looked okay in a couple plays. For the most part, Mariota was clean most of this game.
Yeah, Ian, I'll get your comment here when we get to the Chiefs game. Eric says his 3 shockers of this week were the Raiders, the Buccaneers, and the Browns. He says those Browns.
Yeah, exactly. What Browns were we expecting to show up? Not those. I'm glad they got their offense in check. Also, the Raiders, big surprise for me, helping out my Titans by beating an AFC South team in the Colts. Yeah. I was a little surprised, but again, it's Jacoby Brissett versus Derek Carr. If he's going to be your franchise quarterback, you have to beat a team like Indianapolis that's technically, even though he's the starter now that Andrew Luck is retired, on a backup quarterback for this year. I think this is what you want to see as an Oakland fan. I think Oakland is taking small steps forward, especially after a week where we were both giving up on them.
Yeah. I don't want to get away from our the games, but we got a couple more comments here. Jacob says, what are we thinking about the Rams and Buccaneers game? He thought it was a crazy one. It definitely
Well, we said crazy. Shootout, didn't we? I wasn't going to say 50-40, but
no.
It was a shootout.
Yeah, it was definitely. Ian says Burfict should be kicked out of the NFL.
That was a dirty hit, but did you say the same thing about Derek Barnett when he just came up and blasted Jamal Williams last week? Maybe it's the volume, because we've seen Vontaze Burfict do this stuff before, but all I can say is Vontaze Burfict was doing Vontaze Burfict things, and I give credit to the rest of the Oakland defense for not just absolutely falling apart after what should be their defensive leader got kicked out of the game.
Yeah. On
a boneheaded play, too.
Luke, what's going on, man? Glad you could join us. He said Casey didn't show up today. We shouldn't have been that horrible. Watching that game, man, to be honest, we were definitely a little bit off on all aspects of the game. But I got to give it to the Lions, man. They played a heck of a game. They put a lot of pressure. The offensive line for Casey was having a hard time stopping that defensive front. And they sent a couple packages at us, but it was a lot of pressure off of 4 to 3 men fronts. I mean, it was a lot of pressure. Our offensive line without Eric Fisher seems to be pretty lacking in keeping Patrick Mahomes without a lot of pressure in his face. To be honest with you, we're very lucky to scrape out of there with a win.
And Vinny says Steelers fan for life. We're going to talk about them towards the end of the show when we talk about Monday Night Football. And Fatim says Bears locking shit down. Absolutely. Good thing that defense is there. I think Chase Daniel impressed me too. I watched a good chunk of this game, Drew, before we got on air. Chase Daniel was impressive for coming in cold. I think the Vikings, we were talking about it before. It may be time to talk about getting a new quarterback in Minnesota. Maybe draft somebody this year, right? I mean, at what point do you give up on a guy like Kirk Cousins, who's had every opportunity, has weapons? I get it, the offensive line isn't the best it's been, but he's got 2 great receivers, good tight end, great running back, it looks like, in Dalvin Cook, and they still can't do anything against this Bears team.
Right. No,
is it just the Bears are that strong, or is it the Vikings are that weak, or is it somewhere in between?
We'll have to wait until we get to that game.
I think it's a little bit of both, but we'll talk about it later. Rounding out the Titans game, this puts them back in the race. I think Atlanta, I don't want to call them dead in the water. The NFC South is certainly up for grabs with everybody struggling. You know, the Panthers have a backup quarterback. The Saints have a backup quarterback for now. Tampa won, so I think there's a lot of kind of parity in that division where anyone could go out and win at this point. I don't want to call Atlanta dead in the water, but they got to fix the defense quick if anything's going to happen for them.
Yeah, I didn't keep it a secret. I thought the Falcons had a good opportunity of really pushing deep in the playoffs this year. They're kind of my dark horse to win a Super Bowl, or at least be back into it, and they have disappointed me across the board. I thought getting healthy on defense...
Are they dead and buried?
They're close to it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they come back. There's no doubt. It's still real young in the season, but...
If you look at it, there's only been a couple times in history 1 and 3 teams have made the playoffs. You're usually done.
It's not pretty. It's going to take a real big change in the locker room because at this point in time, I think people are pointing fingers at each other. No offense to the Titans at all, but that game should never got out of hand.
And Luke says, what about that 100-yard TD? That was too weird, talking about the KC thing. The moral of the story is don't give up till you hear the whistle. And I think that's what this was. I know a lot of Lions fans were saying it was cheap and his forward progress was stopped. But I think credit to the refs for not blowing the whistle too early because this is the same group who blew it too early for the Saints a couple weeks ago. Ian also says it looks like a lot of fans dressed as seats in Atlanta. It was absolutely empty. I think this fan base is giving up on him. Is it time to get rid of the coach? Is it time for Dan Quinn to move on?
I don't think this year. No, I don't think this year. I think it's let him play out this year and hopefully he can get another solid performance around or off season and see what can happen through that. And maybe when it goes into next year, they start losing like this, then maybe he gets on the hot seat.
Let's talk Patriots going up against the Bills here too.
Yeah, definitely. Jason, what's going on, man? He said horrible officiating the last minute of the game. He's talking about the Kansas City and Detroit game. Man, I get it. I understand what everyone's saying. I know you read a lot of stuff about it. I don't want to skip about the Patriots game. Jason, if you hold on for me, I'll talk about that game in a second.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Patriots and the Bills.
This game was an absolute defensive slugfest. It's a good thing the Patriots blocked that punt, otherwise the Bills might be 4-0. That's all I can say. Tom Brady was disappointing today, only 150 yards. For a guy that's, 31-3 against Buffalo all-time career, this is a pretty low spot, I think, in that. A win's a win, but 150 yards and an interception? Is the Bills' defense that good?
Yeah, they are that good.
Yeah.
I honestly think that. I think they're that good. And to be honest with you, and I know Allen got banged up, and I know he wasn't looking good, but do you think that game would have been a little bit different if he would have stayed in the game? I mean, this team rallies around him before. Would have been a difference because you got to think it's one touchdown. It could have been one of his crazy runs with his legs. I mean, I'm going
to say no because when I saw Matt Barkley come in, I didn't think he played terribly.
I think it would be right because that's your starting quarterback, right?
Yeah, I'm going to say no though. When you look at the way Matt Barkley came out and played, I don't see that big of a difference because I think if you're going to beat the Patriots, you're not going to do it with a running quarterback. They found a way to keep him in check and really frustrate him through the air. I think you have to outpass these guys. As good as their pass defense is, you have to find a way to put points on the board if you're going to beat them. I think Matt Barkley's almost as good of a thrower as Allen is. I think we're overrating how good of a thrower Allen is. I complain about Lamar Jackson for not being able to throw, but how many weeks does Josh Allen come out and throw for 202 yards and then rush for 100 and we're like, oh, it's okay because that defense bailed him out? Do we let Josh Allen off the hook with that a little bit? I think we do.
I think that's why Marcus Mariota is still in a Titans uniform and in his year 5. I mean, it's
the running ability, yeah. And you throw 200 yards and the defense bails you out.
Exactly.
And people say, "Oh, but they're winning, right?
Yeah.
Oh, but they're in games and they're winning." But when you're only putting up 15 points a week, it never seems to be good enough. Couple more of these comments here. Ian says he loves how Bill Belichick's son tried to stay on the field for the Bills pregame. Yeah, McDermott took issue with that. That was kind of weird. Is it McDermott being a little oversensitive, or is it the Patriots trying to push the envelope again when they're supposed to be in the locker room and the coaches are kind of lingering out there? I think this is a bit of a non-story. I think this is McDermott kind of getting upset that it's a division rival doing something that's against the rules. I mean, what kind of advantage are you really getting here?
I don't know, man.
5-yard penalty for loitering.
I don't know, man. I don't blame anyone for assuming that the Patriots are probably cheating. I really honestly don't. You've been caught too many times. You kind of built that stigma about yourself that if you do anything kind of just pushing the edge a little bit, they're going to start pointing fingers. I don't blame McDermott at all for doing this. I think it was the right move.
I think you have to do it, but I think it's nitpicky. I think it's a non-story. I think people are going to make more,
Right.
the Patriots are cheaters,
I'll agree with
yada,
that.
yada,
I'll agree
because
with that.
everything has happened in the past. But I think McDermott did what he had to do, right? If you let him get away with something, the line keeps moving. The goalposts keep moving, and they try to get away with more. So I think he did exactly what he had to do. Now, Jacob James says, what do we think about the Raiders road trip they're on? And he said last home game September 15th, and the next one is November 3rd. It's tough being a bottom level team when the schedule comes out, or a team that's not expected to be good. I think the Raiders are suffering from that. That's why you've got this kind of crazy road trip coming up for them.
Yeah, no doubt. Will, what's going on, man? We are not apologizing for anything that we said about your god-awful Buccaneers.
Well, 55 points wasn't god-awful. It's about time, right? We've been waiting for Jameis Winston to do this all season long, and it only took us giving up on him for him to come out. So you're welcome. If we didn't say Jameis is done, this probably doesn't happen.
Right.
So.
I still love how he throws a pick. He's probably playing the best game out of his career, and he throws a pick. I just, pick 6 on top of that. So I'm just,
Absolutely. We'll see what the Bills are made of when they play a similar team with the Titans next week.
I got a question for Will, because the thing I got to ask you about it is, so did he just prove to you that you want him to be your starting franchise quarterback? I mean, you still know what you're going to get out of him.
Ink the deal, right? $200 million. You got to give him that Patrick Mahomes money.
I mean, you still know what you got in him. Does this game make you change your mind? I mean, I get you're a Bucs fan. I get you want your players to play well, but that can't be your guy of the future, Will. You got to want somebody else, right?
You would think so. I think the book has already been written on Jameis Winston. He'll probably be a high caliber backup. That's the kind of guy you want coming off the bench. That, hey, maybe he can have a huge game and we can beat the Rams, but he's not the guy you want out there 16 games every year, because 10 of them he's going to throw away to interceptions, or he's not going to be on the money, or he'll throw for 400 yards, but there's 3 interceptions there and the defense isn't going to be good enough to keep up for him. I think he's a high quality backup at this point.
Martavia is saying he doesn't think Quinn will be in Atlanta next season after today.
I think the media is all on this hot seat that he's supposed to be sitting on. But if you're the Falcons, who are you replacing with somebody better than Dan Quinn? Especially, I get it, the defense has not panned out. When you hired him from Seattle, when he's coming from those Super Bowl teams, you said, our defense is going to be great, right? We got Matt Ryan. We got some receiving weapons like Julio Jones. This is the missing piece. And all of a sudden it hasn't translated. But this is the same guy who took you to the Super Bowl. Yeah. This is the guy that, you had it with Kyle Shanahan. I think, yes, the defense is not where it needs to be, but that happens year to year. I think Dan Quinn should stick around. I think, again, what are you replacing him with? Because if you go out and sign another McVay wannabe kind of guy, there's only so many of those guys that are going to go around that are going to be better. Who are you getting? Yeah. Who's the next logical guy you can point to? Is it Josh McDaniels from the Patriots? Would you want Josh McDaniels, the guy who blew up Denver?
McCarthy, maybe?
It could be. I mean, he's sitting out, but does McCarthy make you that much better of a team? I feel like you already kind of got that kind of team, whether you're not playing defense, but the offense can score some points. I don't know that solves everything.
A defensive guy.
Right. And, maybe you invest in the defense again.
Yeah, maybe. Will says he's always been his quarterback. Well, I hope you enjoy your 500 and under seasons, man.
Hey, if that's your opinion, man, I guess agree to disagree. I think now is the right time to get away from Jameis Winston. I actually think last year might have been the right time to get away from Jameis Winston. But I don't think teams are aggressive enough when it comes to getting a new quarterback. I think Tampa Bay should have been drafting third-round quarterbacks for the past couple of years and seeing if they can catch somebody that's actually any good. We'll talk more about Tampa in a minute, though. Let's talk about the Chiefs and the Lions.
We'll stick around, man. I promise it's not all bad about the Bucs. I'm just giving you a hard time, man. Stick around, and we'll get to your game, and we'll definitely talk about him.
This definitely was a big win for Jameis and his career going forward, I think.
Absolutely.
Because he can go to his next team and say, I beat the Rams. I was in Tampa Bay, and I beat the Rams.
Is there a concern with either one of these teams, the Patriots and the poor outing, or the Bills having Allen go down and not winning a close game where, in all rights, they should have won that game?
Yeah, the Bills should have won it. I think when you frustrate Tom Brady like that, and Frank Gore's running, you're frustrating the running game. The Patriots had almost nothing going on offense. This was all about their special teams getting that punt block that they turned into a touchdown. I think the Bills choked a little bit. I think the offense wasn't ready, but I think that's what happens when Bill Belichick is game planning against a rookie quarterback. And for the vast majority of this game, I think there was like 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter when they lost Josh Allen. This was a second-year starter or third-year starter. I forget, what is that, three now? Second?
Second.
You had him going up against Bill Belichick, who is one of the best defensive minds in the game.
Yeah.
They have what it takes, and I get it. Buffalo tried to rebuild an offense in the offseason. They bought 6 offensive linemen. They bought 2 receivers. They drafted running backs. They signed Frank Gore. They signed T.J. Yeldon. This is an entirely new offense, and it's still not good enough.
Right.
If I'm Buffalo, my objective is, can I get an offensive coordinator in here like Mike McCarthy or someone like that hopefully can revolutionize whatever I'm trying to do and make the most of my offense, because they're a halfway decent offense away from being a high-caliber playoff team.
Yeah, I agree. We do got to get moving along for sure before we don't take up some of your time in the Sunday's night game. Talk about the Chiefs going on the road to Detroit Lions. Just to kind of hit everyone's comments that have been sitting there saying officiating was bad, a play that should have been whistled dead with that 100-yard fumble return, the catch in the back. I mean, they're all 50-50 calls, in my opinion. I think it's all about what it was called on the field. And I get that the touchdown was called a touchdown, but he never secured that ball. Yeah, it never left the realm of his gut, but it was not a catch, man. You cannot have that ball consistently moving around as you're falling in. But giving you that, Golladay, man, is a heck of a receiver, and the Lions have a real great future, in my opinion, with that guy, because I never truly watched him play until this game, and that's on me for not doing that. But I don't blame them to be excited about him at all. This guy I think he's going to be a legitimate receiver in this league.
I think he's a very good receiver. I don't think he's the guy you want to have as your number one. I like Kenny Golladay. I think he's a very good playmaker. He's the guy that can make a difference for your team. But I don't think you go into the season saying we have one of the best receiving corps because Kenny Galladay's leading the way. That sounds like criticism. I think he's a very good player. And that's okay. But having a very good player as your number 2 wide receiver, and then you have a Calvin Johnson, you have a Julio Jones, or you have one of these great other players to lead him, Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster, that to me is the kind of setup you want to have if you want to be a high-powered offense in the NFL. Matt Stafford had a better day, but he had a better day against the Chiefs, who, for all their flaws, still played well in the points in time when they needed to play well to get this win. So all I can say is, yes, Detroit played a great game. Ian's saying, was this a Lions versus KC game, a Super Bowl preview? I'm not to that point yet, Ian. I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 more wins in a row, and we'll be talking about the Lions being there. But they played really well against the team that's playing the best in the NFL. This team is playing the best football through Week 4. Spoiler alert from when we do power rankings on Tuesday. The Chiefs are playing the best football right now, and the Lions went pound for pound with them.
Yeah, I agree with you that, and obviously you guys all know I'm a Chiefs fan, but through our troubles and woes, we're still winning games, and that's what makes best teams the best, is when you can win even when you're down. And Ian, I will give you this. I admit that the Lions are for real, and this game was a great push in the right direction for them. Even though it was not a win, regardless of officiating, because you got to throw that out. You got trust me, as a Chiefs fan, I know what it is to have terrible officiated games, and it goes the other direction, and it allows, or it makes my Chiefs lose the game. Now, after the game's done, it's over. You complain about it, makes no difference. They're not going to give a win back to Detroit. So it's a loss. It's what you do and build off of this loss.
All I can say is great teams overcome.
Exactly. And I'll give you this, again, the Lions are for real, but I think they also got to figure out what they're going to do to win games when it comes into tight scenarios like that.
And bear with us, Vinny. I promise we're going to get to the Steelers, but we got to cover some other games here first. Let's talk about the Colts and the Raiders, because I know Raiders fans out there are going to look at this game, and I think this is a staple point win. This shows you that under Gruden, we have significant improvement, right? We all crushed Gruden when he traded Khalil Mack. We all crushed Gruden when he traded Amari Cooper, and they were going in last year, and they were losing games left and right. We crushed him. But beating a team like the Colts, that even though they're not a great team, they're somewhere around middle of the pack, in my opinion, in the NFL, winning a game like this, regardless of the style, shows me that the Raiders are in a better spot now than they were when they started the season last year. When they signed John Gruden, they have improved, even losing guys like Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper. Because I think the old school Raiders under Jack Del Rio lose this game.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think it also kind of shuts all the Raider fans saying Derek Carr's lost a step. I mean, in my opinion, he came out and ball and played pretty well. I mean, I don't know. You have the stats in front of you. I don't have them off the top of my head. What did he go
189 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Very efficient. They started hot, which is what they needed against a team like Indianapolis. Took the lead, and then the pick six kind of sealed it. But I'm not going to say Derek Carr had a great day because I think the Colts, once they calmed down, were good. But he threw 2 touchdowns off the bat, and they look good. They look good for the first half of this game.
Is it ruined our viewership of football because a quarterback doesn't throw for 300 yards?
Yes, Patrick Mahomes has ruined the game of football, if that's what you're asking.
No.
Yeah.
He might have.
No, it's not just him.
But
yeah.
I'm serious. I mean, why does it, because he didn't throw for 200 yards, make him not have a good game? When I look at those stats, I think it's a great game. His team won. He didn't turn the ball over.
It was an efficient game. He didn't put it on his shoulders, and that's what we look for,
but
right?
But you don't want him to, because every time he's done it, he's lost the game.
Sometimes, right? Well, him specifically, yes.
Of late,
but
he is lost.
What do you want to see? If Patrick Mahomes doesn't throw for 300 yards, just like when Patrick
it's
Mahomes
just like this game.
threw for a half, like 180 yards, you're like, dude, something's wrong. Like, we're losing. It's all about expectation. If you have a franchise quarterback and you're paying $25 million a year to this guy, you want more than 180 yards in the game.
Like this game.
I'm with you. Let me get around to the point. Okay, when you have a franchise quarterback you're paying $25 million a year to, you want to see more than you want to see the gaudy stats. You want to see the 300 yards. But the difference is they got up in front and then they got conservative and they didn't. Derek Carr didn't make mistakes. That was good enough to win today. That's what you should care about, right? It's enough to win the game, and that's what it was. He came out hot. He put up, what was it, 14 points in the first 7 minutes on the Colts, and then I get it. The Raiders went a little bit on cruise control, but it worked. They won.
He had a great game.
Good enough.
Patrick Mahomes
$25 million worth of a game? I don't know.
Patrick Mahomes only threw for over 300 yards and 0 touchdowns and 0 picks.
Okay.
Who had a better game?
Patrick Mahomes, because they scored 34 points?
No, Derek Carr
38?
had a better game than Patrick Mahomes, man. I don't know how you can sit there and say that.
Who's playing the better team?
Well, that's not.
Ask Ian. Who's better, the Colts or the Detroit Lions?
We already know that answer.
That is true. And Ian says he might have lost the bet, but he feels good about the Lions this year. You lost the bet, but you made me sweat all the way through. And it could have been much closer. If they didn't get that touchdown 20 seconds before, maybe I'm buying you a beer instead of the other way around. Also, he says this year we still don't know who half the NFL is, including the Raiders and Colts. Win, loss, win. Are they good or bad? Every week it's different. I 100% agree with you, man. But that's the NFL most years where you see all these marginal teams kind of trade wins and losses. It's usually the great teams that get off to a run, but even they'll lose games they shouldn't. Like the Dolphins hanging with the Patriots for a half. Does that mean the Dolphins are a good team because they hung with the Patriots? Does that mean the Patriots just didn't have a good half?
We're still riding the ship. He said Winston had a better game. Yes, man, he had a good game. Ian says he hates to say it, but Patrick Mahomes is going to be better than Tom Brady. It sounds like you like saying it because you wrote it down. Jeff, what's going on, man? He says Lions are a real threat. I 100% agree.
I'm bought in now.
I want to see the bounce back game next week, and I want to see them blow someone out of the water. And then I'll sit there and tell you they deserve to be in everyone's radar because they're a good team.
I think it's the Cardinals game. If they would have hung on, like if they would have given up
That's
18 points and they
thought you were
win.
telling me next week. I was like, yeah.
No. Well, if the Lions would have hung on against the Cardinals week 1 and they were going into this 3-0, I think we'd be talking about them being much better. But 2-1-1, giving up a 19-point lead to a team like the Cardinals that's still trying to rebuild, even though it was week 1, I think it's kind of slanted some people away from the Lions. They look good. I want to see Matt Stafford look like old Matt Stafford, and maybe he doesn't have the weapons for that, but I want to see Matt Stafford throw for 320 yards when they ask him to. Like, this is the game. Matt Stafford should have put up 350 yards and a couple touchdowns here, but the Chiefs kept him to what was it, 280? I know I'm kind of splitting hairs here, Drew, but I want to see a little bit more out of Matt Stafford.
So they got a bye week, and they go against Green Bay. That's what I'm talking about, man. That is the game right there. I get everyone probably circled this Chiefs game, but that's the game we should be circling because if they could sit there and make this game and they go out there and beat a team like Green Bay, everyone I think considers Green Bay minus Will thinks that
Bears fans don't.
The Packers are
they look good.
A decent team in this league right now. This is a game for the Lions to circle and beat them. They need to circle and beat this team.
It's going to tell a lot about the divisional story. Because if
Absolutely.
they come out and get run over by Green Bay, you're going to be talking about the Lions may not be as good as we thought at 2-2-1. Or if they win, all of a sudden everyone's going to say Green Bay's not for real. I feel like whichever team loses this is going to get the wrong end of it when we should be talking about the winner rather than the loser. All right, let's talk about let's finish out Raiders-Colts here because we haven't given a lot of love to it. Jacoby Brissett, for all of his flaws, except for the pick six at the end, he threw 3 touchdowns to 1 interception. Again, it's kind of like one of those situations where the stats lie to you a little bit. You think Jacoby Brissett had an amazing day here when you look at his stat line, or at least an efficient day. It might not be the best one, but 265 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. That sounds pretty good, right? But Oakland frustrated them early on. Yeah. And Vontaze Burfict left the game. They kind of got a little bit of stuff going in the second half. And then the pick six kind of sealed the deal at the end. Where are we at with Jacoby Brissett? Is he just the guy that's always going to be not good enough, where he keeps people in games and then teams can beat him? Or eventually can the Colts put enough around this guy where they can win with him?
I don't know, man.
You have like the best of a bad situation.
It's so weird that and I know you don't think this, but I want him to succeed because he's what he's been thrown into.
I think he's a nice guy. I do. I've heard him talk and everything. He sounds like a good guy. I mean, Frank Reich said he's the guy you want your daughter to marry. So he sounds like a nice guy, and you always want to see those guys succeed.
Right. And like his story, just kind of how everything's happened to him. Drafted by the Patriots, got booted out because he kind of showed threat towards Tom Brady, like every
low round draft pick, everything else.
Every, backup out of the Patriots who gets booted out of there get told that they might have threat Tom Brady, which I highly doubt it. But anyways, gets thrown into the Colts, where Andrew Luck gets hurt. He gets thrown into a terrible team, has a losing season. A lot of people are like, this guy can't cut it. Then Andrew Luck comes back, makes the team look good.
We have 10 minutes. We've talked about 4 games. So, go ahead. Finish your point.
My point is, it's just that want-to-feel-good story where you want to see him succeed in the NFL.
Yes.
I don't know what it is. It's just how it feels. Moving on, the LA Chargers go on the road to the Miami Dolphins.
We're not rushing. Take a deep breath.
No, I'm not. I'm just...
I don't even know if they can hear me.
You're rushing me. Stop.
Yeah. Go faster!
I want you to hurry up. You didn't open it or pour it into my mouth.
Okay. All right, we'll talk about our next game,
God.
which is the LA Chargers going up against the Miami Dolphins. This one we can rush, right? Well, the Dolphins hung with them, and just like I said, I think I texted you at halftime saying the Chargers suck. Like, this is a team that just has not found its footing here. I know Melvin Ingram is now apparently injured, but Josh Rosen looked good through the first half. The Dolphins hung with them for the first half. I know you play 2 halves of football, Drew, but sooner or later, one of these teams is going to fall asleep against the Dolphins, and they're going to win one of these things.
Going on, Austin. He throws out 18 comments in a row. He says, Bills, NFC North is a complete toss-up. Who knows with that division? Cards look bad. Hawks look good. Falcons look terrible. Lions look good.
A lot to break down there.
It's a lot.
It is. Cards look bad. Hawks look good. You're right there. Falcons look terrible. That's a little harsh for against my team. Let's just give credit to the Tennessee defense that nobody talks about. We're pretty good. As for their defense, yeah, they do look terrible. Everything else, Lions look good. Yes, they do. And Vinny is still all in on the Steelers, man. I promise we'll get there. I promise we'll get you there, Vinny. Hang with us, man. Hang tough. We go in order. Except for these 2. Those go last. It's literally the last game we're talking about. But hang with us, man. We promise we're going to talk Steelers.
We're not ignoring you by any means.
And Ian, at least, is sticking with us over Sunday Night Football. You may change your mind when we think about the playoff implications. This is the good one. This is the good primetime game this week. So we got to get going. Why didn't we decide to do Monday Night Football, Drew? Anyway.
I don't know. Thomas, what's going on, man? He says the Bills look good.
The Bills' defense looked good. And this is coming from a Patriots fan. High praise. I absolutely agree with you. Anytime you can frustrate Tom Brady, that's good.
Yeah, I didn't see the defense.
But, Thomas, you know what looked terrible? The rest of their offense. So I give credit to the Patriots for being, and we never give credit. Everyone always says Tom Brady is the reason the Patriots win. This team always finds a way to win no matter what the circumstances are. Tom Brady didn't have it today. The defense didn't have it today. So the special team stepped up. The defense stepped up. And guess what? Patriots win again. Tom Brady's, 31-3 against the Buffalo Bills in his career. Insane.
It is.
Insane. So great game from them.
I don't want to ignore this game about the Chargers, the Dolphins. The only thing I got to say is that first half that Josh Rosen put up, to me, is a little bit impressive. I mean, he's really got nothing going for him and his roster around him, and he kept up with the Chargers team. Yeah, they lost, but I think it's just kind of when you're on a team like the Dolphins, you kind of lose the willpower to keep playing through a difficult game, and
Well, if you're Josh Rosen, you better not lose the willpower because they're going to have the top pick, and there's going to be some quarterbacks out there.
It wasn't necessarily him, but it's definitely a little bit of a struggle. As far as the Chargers go, I think they got a lot of issues. Does Melvin Gordon fix the issue? I don't know. I mean, he wasn't. They were I think they were ranked 15th last year in rushing with Melvin Gordon playing majority of the season, and I think they're ranked like 13 or something like that right now. So I don't really see a significant difference. The only thing I do like is I think they found a good 1-2 punch with Eckler added into that.
I do too. I think Eckler has shown he can be a number one guy, and I was a little skeptical. I didn't think a guy his size would be the guy you want to have all game long, but at least these first 3 weeks have been very good with Eckler. Going forward, I don't think it. I've been talking about the Chargers not being that good for a while now. I think they're a good team. I don't think they're a playoff, or I don't think they're a contender, a Super Bowl contender. I think this game kind of shows you more of the cracks when you can let the Dolphins hang around for a half. Josh Rosen looked decent against you, and this is a team that's losing by 40 points every week. I mean, I think they're now like 162-26 being outscored by opponents, and the Chargers did not help that ratio as much.
All right, moving on to the next game. The Washington Redskins go on the road against the New York Giants.
Case Keenum, why? Why? I bet on these guys. Why does he always do this to me? Every time I believe in the man, he lets me down, and it always happens through. He's thrown for 300 yards against better defenses. He comes out. I know they benched him in the second quarter, but he threw 67 yards. He threw 37 yards, and just an interception. 6 for 11 against what might be one of the worst defenses in the NFL. What? That's all I can say. What happened? And then Dwayne Haskins comes in, and he doesn't look any better. He looks worse.
He looks worse.
A lot worse.
Yeah. Jay Gruden's in trouble. I'm kind of with Ian. Saying goodbye to Jay Gruden.
Going back to the Arena League, but why do I bet on these bad teams, Drew?
I don't know why I did either. That's my second favorite team. And
you know why I did it? Because Case Keenum's throwing 300 yards against better defenses like the Cowboys.
Over and over again?
And then what happens? He plays the Giants. What should happen? 300 should turn into 450. What actually happens?
Trust him.
He throws 37 yards. They're like, we're done with him.
Don't trust him.
And we're going to put Dwayne Haskins in so he can throw 3 interceptions. I think it's pretty clear that my biggest takeaway from this is Dwayne Haskins is not ready to play. I think this should be Case Keenum again. I think he needs to get more practice at an NFL level at a higher speed. I don't think Dwayne Haskins, and to be fair, they haven't put a situation around for him to thrive in. Dwayne Haskins is not ready to be the Redskins quarterback. The Redskins are not ready for him to be on the field, and he's not ready to be playing with the guys that they have around him. Props to the Giants. I think Daniel Jones, even though he threw a couple picks here, has kind of inspired this team. We talked about that kind of effect before in the past.
Yep.
I think the defense played really, really well for for a group that's underperformed and doesn't have a lot of talent.
Yeah.
They didn't look like it today.
Agreed.
24-3. That's a great win. And now you've got a 2-0 rookie quarterback who looks like he might be the best one in the class.
And Gallman looked like a decent backup until they get Saquon.
Who needs Saquon anyway?
No, they need him.
They do.
He looks like a decent
you don't get to play the
backup
Redskins every week. We'll move on. We'll talk about the Browns and the Ravens next. Honestly, Drew, this game is... Have the Browns arrived? Was this what we've all been waiting for?
I think.
Or was this Rex Ryan who just talked them into playing well?
It's all Rex Ryan. I think it's finally the shit hit the fan kind of scenario. Where it's all that could go wrong has gone wrong. When is it time for you to look inside yourself and go, what are we really? And they're facing a division rival, but all right, should have beat this team soundly because the Ravens, before literally playing the Chiefs, everyone's saying they're a top contender in the AFC, and now they seem to be almost lost, and now we're sitting there questioning, is this even a good defense?
And Thomas wants to know, did Uncle Rico and the Jags win? My least favorite quarterback in the NFL did win today, so that's kind of exciting. Last second field goal, they wound up beating the Broncos, which apparently doesn't seem to be that difficult. It will be when my team plays them this year. At the very least, when we're talking about this Browns game, yeah, I think eventually it had to happen, and I think we've kind of overrated the Ravens' defense here going forward. This is the second straight game, and I know all the Ravens defenders are going to come out and say it was the Chiefs last time. Second straight game, they've allowed 500 yards of offense. Before that, they let the Cardinals throw for 300 against them. I forget what the rushing was, but we're probably talking close to 400 yards against them there. 3 out of 4 games this year, Drew, they've been whomped on defense. Even if the points aren't there, yardage-wise, teams are grinding out games against this Ravens team. Eventually, that turns into points.
Yeah.
I think the Ravens defense is finally starting to suffer from losing guys like C.J. Mosley, Zadarius Smith, and just because you sign the safety from Seattle, Earl Thomas,
Yeah.
it doesn't solve all the problems when you lose all that talent year in and year out.
Yeah, I think it's again, I hate to use this scenario, but just shit hit the fan. I think it kind of hit it on both teams. The Browns got enough of the naysaying of you're not as good as we all thought you were going to be, and the Ravens, I think, just kind of had to deal with the splatter of offense that the Browns were putting out. I don't think the Browns team, after watching this game, is going to do this week in and week out. I know everyone thought it would be that way, but I just don't see it. Maybe they could prove me wrong, but even though they won this game, I'm not extremely impressed by them either. Nick Chubb had an outstanding game. Jarvis Landry looked really good. Finally, they decided to throw him the ball.
165 yards, 3 touchdowns. Outstanding is the right word.
But he's out with
for Nick Chubb.
Concussion now.
Landry was 167 yards before he got injured.
So
yeah, I'm saying, what happens if he stays in there the whole game?
I mean, the point is you see these great games out of these individuals, but does it happen week in and week out? That's the question.
Yeah, build on this. That's my biggest thing. But again, we respect the Ravens' defense, and maybe we're giving credit where it's not due, or we're giving credit on past results. But we respect the Ravens' defense for the Browns to do this. This is a good win. Maybe they finally got up for a game, as opposed to going in against the Jets and a backup quarterback and the Titans that they said, oh, Tennessee's not a major team, we'll just blow them out of the water. Now they're starting to play. Ian also says the Baltimore Ravens, spoken like a true Steelers fan, have the most obnoxious fan base. And he says the best thing is salty Ravens fans shutting up finally. But now you get the Cleveland fans talking.
No, it's Denver Bronco fans.
You're picking your poison here, because now, maybe Ravens fans aren't going to be talking about how good their team is. Maybe Browns fans are going to be talking about we're back. I don't see it as a win for a Steelers fan on any front here.
All right, man. Let's go into the next game. We got the Panthers playing against the Texans.
Very little to talk about, except where was Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins in this?
So this is a game that I should have called you and talked to you, but I didn't do it. I switched my fantasy up. I had the Saints defense going against the Cowboys, and I went out there in the waiver wire, and I picked up the Carolina Panthers going against the Texans. I had this feeling that they were going to come out and show themselves.
Too bad you didn't get the Texans.
After last week's defense?
Yeah.
And, well, that wasn't available.
Yeah, I was going to say 3 fumbles recovered, though. I mean, for as much as we love Kyle Allen and the way he's played, the Texans' defense was the reason this game was even close.
My point is this Panthers defense has shown up. They're like, we're not going to rely on our offense. We got to keep this game close. And they've done it these last 2 games.
I absolutely agree with you. I absolutely agree that even more than that, they kept him in the Tampa Bay game. They limited Tampa Bay to like 16 points. Yeah, it was in a rainstorm. Doesn't matter. The defense was there. The moral of the story is the Panthers' offense isn't good enough, just like it has been, and we're going to need to see improvement. I think Kyle Allen, for everything he showed here, he was 24 or 34 for 232 yards, which sounds good until you throw in the 3 fumbles, no touchdowns, no interceptions.
Yeah.
Too many turnovers. He's going to have to improve on that. But we're talking about Houston. Houston has an amazing front 7. They're still very good, led by J.J. Watt. Even without Clowney, this front 7 is still one of the better ones in football.
Right.
I want to see a better attacking game against a weak secondary, though. I think the secondary for Houston did a decent job today, but if you're the Panthers, you just spent a high pick on Curtis Samuel. You just spent a high pick on DJ Moore. I get it's your backup quarterback, but he's looking like he's throwing, and Cam is not a big thrower anyway. I need to see more out of my passing game in this game, even though we won. That's what I'm building on here. We got to improve in the passing game if we're going to succeed in the NFL.
Ian, I lived in Colorado too, and dude, they really are. And I have some great friends that are Denver Broncos fans. Love those guys to death, but the fan base is just absolutely obnoxious. Let's move on to the next game. We got the Buccaneers playing the Rams. Will, where are you at, man? This is a game you waited for. We're going to talk about them. Does this make the Bucs a legitimate contender, going out and scoring 54 points against last year's Super Bowl contender? Is this game right here put the Bucs over the edge? What are they, 2-2 now?
Yeah.
I mean,
tied for the lead in the division.
Tied in lead for the division. They pretty much
with
get
Carolina.
Start their
Actually, they have the tiebreaker over Carolina. They are the first team until we see the Saints play here in a minute. They're leading the division, and that's big for a team that we wrote off. And I'm still writing off, but
yeah, I am too.
I think this game, even though if the Rams had played like they had in last year's kind of super swoon where the offense looked amazing and you outshot them there, I would say this is great. This is Tampa Bay flexing their muscle, saying, "Oh, if only we put together a defense, this can be a legitimate team." The problem is the Rams have struggled all year long.
Yeah.
This isn't just, and they've won. They've been 3-0, but we talked about this. They might have been the worst 3-0 team out there with the way they played. They barely beat Cleveland. They barely beat the Saints, and it took some calls going their way to beat the Saints again.
Right.
They have looked bad all season long. I credit the Buccaneers for winning. That's important. Beating a team like this, like the Rams, this isn't like beating the Rams last year. You didn't beat a top 5 team this year. The Rams, again, spoiler alert for Tuesday, not sitting in my top 5 when you talk about teams in the NFL right now. They didn't run with Gurley at all. They threw, 600,000 times with Jared Goff?
Yeah.
68. Oh, that's all. Are we talking about college football? 68 passes?
17 yards.
I mean, that's impressive, but still, again, Drew, 68 passes. This was just one of those games that even though Tampa Bay is a team that has played a little bit higher than it should have, how much credit do you give here?
I think the Buccaneers' defense is decent. I think it's kind of come around where they were god-awful, and now they're decent. And we all kind of know what the Buccaneers have in Winston. That's a quarterback that's willing to sling it. But the one thing and the reason why I cannot believe in the Buccaneers, regardless of what Will says, is I don't want Jameis Winston as my quarterback for the future if I'm the Buccaneers. I don't trust this guy in pressure situations to not turn the ball over. And that is an issue he's had his whole entire career. Yeah, he looked good in this game. Threw for 385 yards, 4 touchdowns. Did throw a pick 6, though. That's exactly what I'm getting at. When the game got a little bit closer, that lead wasn't up there. He had a lot of pressure on him. He threw a pick to Marcus Peters for a pick 6. This is what I'm getting at about him. It's any time that game gets a little close to, oh my God, I could lose this, he throws everything on his shoulders, and he throws a god-awful pass, and it gets intercepted. You cannot have the head of your franchise doing that consistently. Does this game look good for them? Absolutely. I'm kind of with Ian. He says it just proves the Rams are still hungover from last year.
Well, Thomas says they've been exposed. Thomas said they've been exposed, but I kind of disagree with him here. He says it should have been the Saints versus Pats last year. You're right on that. It should have been that. I don't want to say it's because they've been exposed. I think Todd Gurley is hurt worse than we think. I think Todd Gurley, there's a reason they're running him 5 times in this game, and it's not to save him for the playoffs. They don't believe in Todd Gurley's knee holding up. Whatever's going on with it, whether it's arthritis, whether it's something worse, Todd Gurley is not in a state that the Rams are willing to risk the rest of his career by playing him in a game against Tampa Bay in Week 4. So I don't think the team is there. I think that's half of the offense. The other half, I don't think Jared Goff is as good as we think he is. I think he's in a good system. I think he's got some good receivers around him, and I think he can manage when you have all that going for you. But at the end of the day, I don't want to say it's because they've been exposed. I think it's whether you want to call it Super Bowl hangover or the fact that they got embarrassed in the Super Bowl by Bill Belichick and his defense. The Rams have not looked like the same Rams offense. They still scored 40 points.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's unsustainable when you give up 54, though.
Right. No, absolutely. Sharif, good to see you, man. He said the Ravens defense played like they're a JV football team.
But not for the first time. They did against the Chiefs. They did against the Cardinals. Are we finally talking about the Ravens defense not being what drives this team anymore? And we talked about that just a second ago. And Sharif says the winner of the AFC North will have a 7-9 record. The Bengals will be better than 7-9, right? I'm kidding there.
Oh, man. One thing about the Buccaneers that I will give them a highlight, man, I believe in that kid Godwin. What a stud. 12 receptions, 172 yards, 2 touchdowns.
And Mike Evans ain't bad either.
Well, everyone concerned, hey, you got rid of all your targets. You got rid of Humphreys. You got rid of Jackson. Who's going to step up? Godwin has.
And he had a good year last year as well. I'm 100% with you. I think he's a great receiver. I think Mike Evans is a great receiver. But when that's your strength, I still don't love subtracting weapons. I think them losing guys like
See you, Thomas. Glad
Adam
you could join
Humphries.
us, man.
Absolutely. I think when you lose guys like Adam Humphries, though, you're still getting worse. And you're losing everyone else, and you're bringing in Brashad Perriman to replace him. Not good enough. I think Tampa Bay kind of lost its identity. And until this week, we've been talking about how the offense has not been firing. So I want to see more than just this week against what might be one of the oldest defenses in the NFL with the Rams.
All right, going on to the next game. Got the Seahawks going on the road against the Arizona Cardinals. Seahawks pulled this one out. Is there any surprise to any of this game to you? The only thing that really surprised me is this high-flying offense that the Cardinals are supposed to have. It seems like Kyler Murray's having a hard time finding the end zone.
This is a Seahawks-style win, too, where, hey, we'll just grind them out. They had that pick 6 early. After that, they kind of shut things down and said, we're going to grind some clock. As for them finding the end zone, I think you got to get an offensive line before I'm ready to criticize. I think you got to protect him and give him some time to throw.
No,
this is a good defense.
His leading receiver was his running back for 8 catches and 99 yards. I mean, that's not a plan by an offense by any means to have that happen. I think it's a struggle. I mean, obviously, Kyler Murray has found the end zone throwing the ball. He obviously rushed for 1-2 in this game, but for a high-flying offense, this is something that,
It's a building process. New head coach, new weapons, new quarterback.
You need to find the end zone.
The yards is where you start. Eventually, it turns into touchdowns.
But the yards have already been there. He's already
for this year. For this year, it's been 4 games, Drew. All I'm saying is pump the brakes. It's a rookie.
No, I need more from him now.
Right now.
That being said, Russell Wilson's still one of the best quarterbacks in this league.
Sure,
just plays in the wrong.
You just don't need him to throw, and that's exactly why the Seahawks won here because they didn't need to throw.
240 yards, a touchdown. Only missed 8 or 6 catches.
Anyone else were like, is this a good day? Do we know? Russell Wilson were like, they just didn't ask him to throw.
Bees, what's going on, man?
He says, Bear down. Well, we're about to talk about the Bears, actually. I think this is a good win for Seattle. It's a good win in division. The Cardinals are still a work in progress. That's all I can say. They're still missing their 2 best corners. They're going to be for a while. Patrick Peterson comes back week 7, and Robert Alford, whenever he comes back from a broken leg, it's tough to beat Russell Wilson when you don't have 2 of your starting corners. If they wanted to, they could have thrown the ball. I think this just came down to we can run, so why throw?
Very true.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk Bears. Let's talk Bears and Vikings. I asked you before, Drew, is it time to give up on Kirk Cousins? Before we talk about the Bears, before we talk about them pulling out another win, and we talk about the 16 points they put on the board, even though it was Chase Daniel, what I want to talk about is the Vikings and Kirk Cousins, who, yeah, it's a good defense, but you have Stephon Diggs, you have Adam Thielen, you have Kyle Rudolph, you have Dalvin Cook, you drafted Irv Smith to be a backup tight end, and how many points did you put up against the Bears? 6? Is it time to move on at quarterback?
Oh, man, before I get into that, I want to answer Tyler's question. Tyler, what's going on, man? Glad you could join us. He says, do you guys feel like Casey was exposed, missing 3 players, or was it just a bad day with a fired-up Lions team? Real quickly, man, I think Eric Fisher being missed is definitely huge. You can saw pressure from the Lions team, only rushing 3 to 4 players. We're getting to Patrick Mahomes, breaking up his timing with his receivers. Having Tyreek Hill gone is absolutely huge, man. There's no doubt about it. This passing offense has not looked the same without him there.
And that's been my point. I think he's the engine of the offense.
From the top. Yep. As far as like Damian Williams goes, McCoy's stepping in pretty well. I prefer to have a better 1-2 punch if they're going to do a committee by backfield. But so far, it seems like we don't need it as long as Patrick Mahomes throwing.
Maybe they get Kareem Hunt back after that 1-year deal in Cleveland's up.
But the most important piece, I honestly really do think, even over Tyreek, is getting Eric Fisher back and healthy. Because that offensive line got, in my opinion, tore apart in this game against a fired-up Lions team. And
this is the hardest thing to kind of go with. Tyler says if Minnesota had a quarterback, they'd actually be a threat. Instead, they're an overpaid dumpster fire. But what did we see in Washington for all those years? I mean, it was Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon and Jordan Reed, who's never on the field. You can't tell me that that was like a powerhouse offense that Kirk Cousins took advantage of. It wasn't Case Keenum when he was playing for the Vikings. Right? It wasn't just the offense has so many weapons that anyone can succeed there. That was not the case. What are they doing differently that is stopping a guy like Kirk Cousins that, again, he hasn't had a great winning percentage against the top teams, but he does well against the bottom teams. What are they doing different in Minnesota that they're not doing in Washington? I think it's protection. I think at the end of the day, they're still not protecting him enough, and they've kind of changed from this, we'll let Kirk Cousins throw because we paid him all this money, to we'll never let him throw because we need Dalvin Cook and we want to be a running team and identity and blah, 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 blah. I think they got to find the happy medium. They need to protect better. That's the first thing. They need to block better. They need a better offensive line. But at the end of the day, you have all these offensive weapons. Throw the ball a little bit.
Yeah. I'm with Bees. He said Bears defense showed why they're the best.
And they are. There's no debate for me. No debate. The Bears are the best defense in the NFL right now.
I completely agree with you. But here's the thing. When you guaranteed a man like Kirk Cousins all that kind of money, I'm sorry.
You don't care how good the defense is.
I don't care how good it is. You need to put up something. And in my opinion, when you have 27 for 36 passing and 233 yards, and you have 2 of the best receivers in the league, you do more than this.
And they did last year, is the thing.
Yeah,
even last year, for the first 15 weeks, they fired their offensive coordinator because they said, oh, we're not running enough. But they had offensive success. You could argue they were the better team, and it was the defense last year.
Right.
This year, the defense is playing well. They're running the ball well. But Kirk Cousins, you're not throwing it. You're throwing like 15 times a game sometimes.
And the Bears had their backup quarterback in this game. This game should have been almost, in a sense. I mean, let's not knock about it. The Vikings have a decent defense, too. They're not as good as the Bears. No. But maybe with Chase Daniel in there, Kirk Cousins, that offense, they should win this game.
Yeah, they should. 100%. They should absolutely win this game. When you talk about all the big contracts they have on defense, all the guys with all the big pedigrees like Everson Griffith, they should have won this game.
Yeah.
100%. As soon as Mitch Trubisky went out and had his arm in that sling, this should have been all Vikings. Instead, Chase Daniels, I don't want to say he looked great. He didn't look great, but I didn't see that much of a difference between him and Mitch Trubisky, the way Mitch has struggled this year. And that's the most concerning thing if I'm a Bears fan. Hey, this is Chase Daniel coming in, and I'm not seeing a huge difference here. It wasn't good. Obviously, Mitch is the better guy. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying bench Mitch to play Chase Daniels. But what I'm saying is Chase Daniels is not a good quarterback in the NFL, but the gap between him and my starting quarterback is not as wide as I want my gap to be.
And Bees, I'm right with you. He says, how about the fact the Bears had 7 inactive starters and their quarterback goes out? Talk about adversity. People counted them out. I don't think anyone counted them out. It's just the fact that...
Well, we picked them. We didn't count them out.
Yeah. It's not the fact that I don't think anyone counted them out. It's the fact that because of all that and because Mitch Trubisky went down, this game should have favored the Vikings, and it did not. I think there's more issues with the Vikings than it is the Bears. To me, it just shows how deep the Bears team is. Now, I do have a question for you, Bees, because I know you're our avid Bears fan. Are you concerned that Matt Nagy and this play calling seems to have a problem putting up points? I know Mitch Trubisky went out. I know this is against the Vikings defense, but this is 16 points, and he was upset about him, week 1 not scoring enough points. You haven't really seen a lot of points come out of it. They're having issues running the ball. They're kind of having issues throwing the ball. Are you concerned at all about this offense? How far can this defense go into the playoffs and win you a Super Bowl? Because that's the ultimate goal. Is there a concern with you, being a Bears fan, that Matt Nagy's offense is not being either called right, played right? I don't know what you want to call it. But to me, I think there's a little bit of question marks around that offense.
Now, B says he feels like Mitch would have put the ball in the end zone a couple more times, but I disagree with that. Again, when was the last time we saw a couple more times mean the Bears are scoring 30 points? I haven't seen Mitch Trubisky really drop 30 points this season, right? The Bears have not had this high-flying offense here. And the Vikings defense, I would almost argue, has been the best one they've played. I know Green Bay played a great game against them. They set up to stop the pass. The Bears tried to throw, and lo and behold, the Packers stopped the pass. But I can't look at this Bears schedule, and I'm not remembering it off the top of my head, but I think this Vikings defense might be the best one they've played. So to score 16 points here with your backup quarterback, I don't think Mitch Trubisky puts a couple more touchdowns on the board. Now, B says he likes the time of possession. I do too. Again, when you have a defense like this, rest them up, get them out there aggressive and hungry and fresh, and that's a good way to win games. But I don't know that I agree with the Mitch Trubisky scoring multiple more touchdowns in this one.
I don't know if I don't know if I do either, man.
Right.
Even looking at that comment from your to the question doesn't answer it to me. I'm fully with Jake here.
Even with the 7
Trubisky
starters,
doesn't make me sit there and go, "Oh, this game would have been 30 to 6."
Yeah,
I don't feel that way at all.
I agree.
I honestly don't. Is it Trubisky? Is it Nagy? Is it the fact that Nagy's trying to do too much, or is it Trubisky trying to do too much? But now that you have a quarterback in there that isn't going to go all crazy and wild, still only put up 16 points. Should have put up more.
And Tyler's also saying he feels like the Bears are in the same situation as Minnesota with their quarterback. The only difference is you didn't guarantee him $27.5 million a year. I think the Bears, it's a much easier escape from a guy like Mitch Trubisky that even though he's a first-round pick, you're probably paying him $4, $5, $6 million here in year 3. And then the next couple of years, you still get relatively cheap.
Yeah.
There's no cheap money in Minnesota when you pay Kirk Cousins $30 million every year and it's fully guaranteed. Remember, this is the first fully guaranteed contract in the NFL. They're on the hook for whatever that $27.5, $27.9 million is every year.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how good or how bad he is. And I think maybe that's where some of your struggles are coming in from. There's no incentive.
Well, let's move on to the next game. The guy that you want to talk to, that you've been aching to talk to, the Jacksonville Jaguars go on the road. They beat the Broncos in Denver, 26-24.
This game has blah written all over it.
Minshew kicked a field goal to win the game. That's what the media is saying.
Is that what happened?
No.
Well, one thing I will say is I'm tired of talking about Gardner Minshew. I get it. He's the meme. He's funny. Ha ha ha. He looks like he's a porn star with a mustache. It's hilarious. Can we shut up about a guy who's throwing for 200 yards every game? Can we just stop, please, and take a breath and say this is a backup quarterback that's throwing for 200? So what? So what? Chase Daniels almost over for 200 yards. Why aren't we out there talking about Chase Daniels? Oh, that's right, because he doesn't have a mustache. Okay, can we move on from Gardner Minshew? He beat the Denver Broncos.
He kicked that field goal.
Good job.
He actually picked up Leonard Fournette and ran with Leonard Fournette in his hands for 225 yards. Yeah. Minshew did it
I'm just
all.
tired of it. I'm so tired of it. The guy's... I don't want to say he's bad, because he's been very good for a backup quarterback. Right? When you lose Nick Foles, the season's supposed to be over,
right.
And the season's not over because Jacksonville has gotten decent quarterback play and better quarterback play than when they had Blake Bortles. But that doesn't make him a good player. I'm tired of everyone kissing his ass, and maybe this is because I'm a Titans fan, but my God, I am so tired of hearing all the dumb stuff. I know I'm dancing on thin ice here. About Gardner Minshew. I'm so tired of it that it's like, dude, this is another 200-yard performance. And the Jags eking out a win against a team that is marginal at best. Is anyone saying the Broncos are a good team right now? Is anyone? I mean, sure, he hung with Houston, but he scored 12 points. Sure, he hung with Tennessee, but we're stupid. I don't know what else to say. I'm so tired of the narrative of, because he has a mustache and he drinks beer and he's from Florida and all these other stories that are coming up out of nowhere that who knows if they're true or not, that everyone's ready to talk about him in the media. They were doing it before he played the Titans. I'm done. Retire, Gardner Minshew. My God, I'm tired.
Ian says as Dobbs sits as his backup, and B says Minshew could throw a ball over the Colorado mountains.
Really?
I'm
he
just
needed
saying.
to today. He was in Colorado. He had his chance, and he threw 200 yards again.
I heard he was also playing defense, and he picked off Joe Flacco.
Yeah, so. They don't need Jalen Ramsey anymore because he's got to play corner too. He's just got to play all 11 spots in the defense. So they'll just throw him out there.
Now, for real, I am going to bring this back up to you because I know you love him.
Before I have a heart attack, go ahead.
Why does 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, 0 pick not a good enough performance for you in today's NFL?
It's not that it's not a good enough performance. My point is it is a good enough performance, and we're talking about this guy like he's a superstar in the NFL. He's hilarious.
It's a feel-good story, man.
I don't want to feel good. I want the Jags to suck.
Well, that's because you're a Titans fan.
No, it's not because of that. I just think the coverage and everything else, media coverage, is so far in excess that the joke has gotten tired for me.
Well, that's why we do this show. Because we get sick and tired of constantly hearing...
And here I am complaining about it.
And this is not a knock, but just how great Tom
If he was
Brady
on the Titans, I'd be talking about him like he's Marcus Mariota, because he's throwing for less yards than Marcus Mariota is. With fewer weapons, I'll give you that. But
we got tired of the media. We got tired of hearing the same thing. We got tired of the paid material they have to give, because God forbid you say anything negative about anybody.
Well, here I am.
But I'm just saying... But this guy has literally done nothing to make his team lose, and you're throwing him under the bus like he's the worst quarterback out there.
No, on the reverse. And every time, I've said this entire thing has been my reaction to the way everyone is kissing this dude's ass. And I know I'm getting a little suspect here, Drew. I'll dial it back in a second. But everyone has been all over Gardner Minshew since he started, and they didn't just get totally destroyed by Houston. And okay, maybe that's like the goalpost to set when you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, but he's throwing for like 200 yards a game. He scored 12 against the Texans. He scored, like 20 against the Titans. Good job. I'm glad you got to play against Marcus Mariota. You got to put up another win. And in this one, how many points did they score? Remind me here. 26 against a bad defense like the Broncos, who didn't sack anybody and didn't cause an interception before this game here. Where do we draw the line? Where do we get a little realistic? I just want to bring it back to it. The guy is a good backup quarterback at this point. If your quarterback throws for 200 yards, should you be happy about it? Typically, no. Typically not. If you have to kick a last-minute field goal to beat a team like the Broncos that have lost to the Raiders and everybody else, and that wasn't a dig. I just can't remember who else they played. The Bears were in there. Why are we sitting here celebrating these guys? They play the Chiefs already? Mm-hmm. Okay, well.
Ian says he was also taking tickets at the gate and mows along after the game. That's how great
exactly,
of a
and this
is
is exactly what I'm pushing back against. I know. Everyone wants to give him all this credit.
Bees wants to know, what if he played for the Titans? How much would you?
I would still hate him because we're not throwing 200 yards. 200 yards isn't good enough. Okay, I want to have Patrick Mahomes. I want to throw for 350 yards. I know.
You can't have him.
Believe me, if we're in Tennessee, we'd have him and he'd throw for 180, and we'd be talking about he's a bum quarterback. I know.
Cody says, Fournette coming back to his old form. Do you believe that this game against the Broncos defense,
No.
does Leonard Fournette, I mean, that 225 yards, that's a huge outing.
It was exactly what you want to see against a bad defense that can't stop the run.
Okay.
They got rid of Brandon Marshall. They have no D tackles up the middle. They got 2 edge rushers on the defensive front in Bradley Chubb and Von Miller, who have struggled early on because the rest of this defense isn't very good. It's a step in the right direction. Obviously, 225 yards is a good day against any NFL team. Right. But am I ready to say that Leonard Fournette is back and we're getting the guy that we should have got coming out of LSU that skipped his senior year because he was that good? No. And it's not all Leonard Fournette. It's the offense. It's the way they call plays. It's the offensive line. But do I expect Leonard Fournette to come out next week and the week after and have great performances? I'm going to say hedge your bets here because we've seen 3 tough weeks and then 1 good one against a team that doesn't look like it's ready to compete for anything in the NFL.
All right, let's go on to our
I'm glad he did it, though.
games,
I like
man.
Leonard Fournette. I do.
Yeah, I know you do. Let's go into our primetime games. Let's go ahead and knock them out and let everyone go to Sunday Night Football.
I know Vinny's ready to talk about the Steelers. He has been.
He's not commenting. I'm afraid he left, man. The Cowboys.
Everybody leaves us.
Go on the road to the New Orleans Saints. You talked about this being the highlight of the primetime game.
It has to be. When you talk about Monday night.
What? The Bengals and the Steelers?
0-3 square off. Yeah, we're looking at Sunday. And then
you're 100% right. But
and I'm still going to watch it. But, okay. I'll take that game with the way the defense has been playing, with Michael Thomas being out there, with Teddy Bridgewater. Everybody's... I feel like Teddy Bridgewater's kind of like Gardner Minshew without the meme potential. Everyone talks about Teddy Bridgewater like he's an amazing quarterback, and then he goes out and throws for 180 yards. And I don't hate Teddy Bridgewater. Just like Gardner Minshew, it's a feel-good story. But at the end of the day, is that going to be good enough to beat the Cowboys? No, it's not. And we talk about him like he's a good quarterback because the media loves pumping this guy up. They love pumping up Gardner Minshew. But at the end of the day, you're getting the same level of performance where the guy's throwing 24 of 36 for 180 to 215 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and it's on the defense. Can you win? And that's what's going on with the Saints. And I'm going to say against the Cowboys, probably not.
I'm actually going to go with the Saints. I actually think the Saints defense will put another game on their shoulders. They're going to create enough pressure on the Cowboys. I'm not going to sit there and say they're going to do pick sixes or anything like that. Because so far, Dak Prescott has yet to really turn the ball over excessively. I just think they're going to hold them enough where you're going to see another Alvin Kamara or Michael Thomas or whoever decides to shine on that offense.
Yeah.
Put enough points up. As much as I want to sit there and say I think this is going to be a high-scoring game, I actually think both teams will probably score low 20s, and you'll probably see like a field goal to win it.
I think it'll be close.
The Saints.
I think it'll be close enough. I don't think the Cowboys' defense has lived up to potential. I think the Saints' defense has been very, very good. I think Alvin Kamara has showed last week that, hey, even without Drew Brees, you still got a huge weapon in me. Yeah. I'm never ready to count Michael Thomas out. I think this stays close. But I'll go with the starting quarterback over the backup. Even though I don't think Dak Prescott's a great player, I think he's played really well to this point. I think he's got 3 games that you want to start the season with. I don't want to call them money games. I almost did, but that's insulting for anyone in the NFL. But he's had 3 really easy games to get kind of in rhythm. And now week 4, he's in rhythm going up against a team that it's going to take some rhythm to beat. I think the Cowboys win close. I think it's like 31-26. I think it's within 1 score, but I'm going to go Cowboys here.
Okay.
Now, Tyler says he knows he would take Teddy as a backup over a lot of other quarterbacks. Exactly. And that's what you ask for a backup quarterback. And I think Gardner Minshew's in the same spot. If you can get a backup that can come in and throw you 200 yards, you have like a top 5, top 10 backup. That's what you want out of the backup quarterback, right?
Right.
That's what you expect. And I think that's where those guys are. But we're talking about these guys like they're highlights in the NFL. And maybe it's because we don't have anything else to talk about. But
dude, you know Minshew's right now in the stadium picking up trash, right, in the bleachers?
No. I think he just uses his mind and picks it up, and it's all in the trash before he even walks off the field.
He is. I just want you to know that.
All right. Also, Tyler says Teddy played pretty good against the Seahawks last week. Yeah. And it still turned into a loss. I think Teddy is a decent quarterback. He's the guy that, exactly, you want to have. You call it a fringe starter in hockey when you have a goalie. I think he's a fringe starting quarterback in the NFL where he's close to being good enough to win you a game. You can beat the bad teams. You probably lose to the good teams, but maybe it's close. And you just float until your quarterback comes back that can actually match up against him. I think that's where Teddy Bridgewater's at. I think that's what kind of Gardner Minshew is. I got to go with the team with the starting quarterback in this matchup.
Cody says, Saints stop the run, make Zeke beat the weak Saints back end.
Hopefully they don't get to the back end.
and
Defensively up front, guys like DeMario Davis, they've been pretty good against the run. Not great, but they've been pretty good against the run.
We talk heavily about all these games coming into the show, and we go a lot deeper in during. Not to take anything away from you guys, because we try to give you as much as we can, but we know we're always up against the clock. That was one of my biggest things is it needs to, for the Cowboys to win this game, is a heavy dose of Zeke.
Yep.
The problem is that's not what the Cowboys are doing right now. With Kellen Moore calling the offense, they want to get a heavy dose of throwing the ball with Dak.
Even with a heavy dose of Zeke, how often do you win against the Saints defense playing this well? I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. Right. It's not hand Zeke the ball and you win the game, kind of like I thought it was with the Bears.
That's a great recipe to win.
Sure. Yeah, I would try it. I would try it 12 times at the beginning of the game, and then when it doesn't work, maybe then you go a little more aggressive and see what you can do. It's not like Bears-Packers week 1, where I was talking about run the ball up the middle and you win this game. You don't have that kind of blueprint with the way the Saints defense is played. There's no easy way to beat this team.
Just so you're aware, Ian let us know that Minshew went over to the Middle East and is now peace, and now he won the Nobel Peace Prize.
Okay, all right, good. We've needed peace in that region for a long time. I'm glad. It doesn't make him a better quarterback. Okay, so I'm still gonna dog on him. I'm glad you guys are having fun. That this is like burning.
It's only because it bothers you. There's a reason why we keep talking about it.
Well, let me say this. Maybe he turns into a great quarterback. Maybe they get rid of Nick Foles and that 4-year contract turns into nothing. Maybe he's the next great Jag quarterback since Byron Leftwich. But I think Gardner Minshew is just what he is. And I think we oversell it because it's fun to make jokes about this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, shut up. Because I'm tired of it.
This is a great quarterback. I understand. All right, Monday night.
Gardner Minshew, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, everybody else. Right? Do we have that? Is that the Sports Around the Bar ranking? Do we have that set?
Kind of. Like, best human ever.
Gardner Minshew.
Right. Best quarterback ever.
Gardner Minshew.
Not Patrick Mahomes.
Nope. You're not buying into the hype,
best
Drew.
Best human ever.
Gardner Minshew.
Yes. Best quarterback.
Still Gardner Minshew.
All right. Well,
and for everyone listening on podcast, they're almost neck and neck, but Gardner Minshew wins both of those categories, and that's what everyone's talking about.
We'll take a close second with Patrick Mahomes.
That's why I'm getting tired of it. You can only drink so much Natty Ice before I'm saying maybe you're not that good of a quarterback.
Are we drinking Natty Ice?
We're not, but I think Gardner Minshew's the guy that drinks Natty Ice.
Don't promise me Natty Ice and then take it back.
I will bring you Natty Ice for the next show if you threaten me with a good time. All right. Anyway, yeah, and he is right. You've been saying we're sitting here telling you for like 28 times in this episode. We've been trying to get away from it. I think I'm now convinced that you're the guy who brought that to the table.
Well, I just want you to know after Minshew leaves the stadium, he goes to his over-the-night job and he makes car parts in a factory somewhere.
Okay.
For the mentally handicapped.
And now I should feel bad? Is that what you're going for?
Yes, you should. And I don't know why mentally handicapped people have cars, but that's what's important is this guy is God sent.
Monday Night Football. Are you ready to get back on track?
No.
No?
You told me this game's not worth anything. It's the showdown of the 0-3s.
And Ian, I'm sorry for you, man. I really am sorry for you. Look, it's over for the Bengals and the Steelers. I think we all kind of know that. I think this game sounded a lot sexier when they wrote the schedule in the offseason, and there was the Steelers going up against the Bengals, who had a great offense last year and maybe would have stolen a win or two in the first couple weeks. But at this point, Andy Dalton's throwing for a lot of yards, but he's not scoring a lot of points. And I think that's going to be a problem against the Steelers. This is a tough pick. This is a really tough pick for me. The moral of the story is don't gamble on this game because you're betting on the best of a bad team. I don't like either one of these teams. They should shut down Mixon for the Bengals. The Steelers should because their front seven's been as good as it is. But everyone shut down Mixon so far. And on the other end of things, the Bengals should be able to throw against a weak Steelers passing game, but everyone's been able to throw. The Bengals have thrown in the past, and they haven't won games. I don't know, Drew. I'm looking at this matchup, and I'm like, what the hell is going to happen?
Yeah, it was a difficult game to pick, and I like what Andy Dalton's doing, throwing the ball. I know last week was a little bit disappointing, but I believe that will get back into form during this game. But even that being said, the Steel City's a hard place to win, and at some point in time, I believe the Steelers just with Mike Tomlin as their head coach, and yeah, I know Ben Roethlisberger's not there. I know Bell's gone. We know Brown's gone, but this team still has a lot of pride in what they do, and this 0-3 start is eating at them. I don't think the Bengals had that same kind of pride, and I think that's what's going to be the difference in this game. And that's not a knock on the Bengals. It's just when you talk about the Steelers, and I know Sharif is with it. I know Ian feels this way. This is a team that has a chance of winning this division. And an 0-3 start was not anywhere near what they thought it would be. The Bengals are lucky to get 500.
Yep.
And that's where I'm getting at. I'm going to pick the Steelers to win this game.
And Tyler says, what happened to Tyler Boyd? He feels like he fell off. Well, if he's going to come back, this is probably the week for it. When you look how bad the Steelers secondary's been, we panned the Steelers when they signed Steven Nelson to a big contract in the offseason. We were like, how is this guy a $25 million player? And they gave Steven Nelson a $25 million contract. The answer is they have nothing going on at cornerback, and they didn't believe in their ability to draft one because I think they knew they were going for one of those middle linebackers early. That's why they traded up so high. The Steelers can't stop the pass. If you're going to bet on Tyler Boyd coming back, this is a great game for that to happen. So do I think it's going to happen? More than likely. Do I think it's a foregone conclusion? No. I'm not going to tell you go bet on Tyler Boyd, but I like every receiving option in the Bengals offense this week.
Yeah.
The only guy I don't like is Joe Mixon running up against this front set. Even Tyler Eifert, I take him as a flyer. Maybe he has a good game again.
I don't believe it.
Maybe we get old school Tyler Eifert against the Steelers defense.
What, he's going to break his foot?
He'll break something. Probably passing yards to a tight end record.
Is there?
The guy who everyone believed in for like 12 years.
And then broke his foot. Okay. So we know that's not going to go anywhere.
Same guy, yes.
Hey, guys, again, thank you all so much for the comments, likes, and shares. It
so
means
you're taking
the world
Steelers?
To us. I am.
I am too.
And I'm just trying to get us out of here so we can go and watch some of this game because I know we're
only half hour over schedule.
It's whatever.
We're getting better.
But guys, we sure appreciate it, and I do want to give special thanks out to everyone out there that gave a comment. And if I missed you, I'm so sorry. But Eric, Ian, Jacob, Jeremy, Luke, Vinny, Jason, Will, Jacob, Martavius, Jeff, Austin, Luke, Sharif, Bees, Tyler, Cody. You guys are all awesome. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Special shout out to Ian, Tyler, and whoever's watching us without commenting, guys. We see that you stuck with us through Sunday Night Football, and we appreciate that. I'll give you the Drew bow. Thank you so much. I know we ran long. We tried to get out of here close to Sunday Night Football, but we didn't do it this week. We never shut the hell up, and this is just proof of that. So thank you for sticking with us over or with Sunday Night Football, guys. It's been fun. It's been fun. I can't wait for Monday Night Football because, again, I don't know what's going to happen in this game. I think the Cowboys are going to win this one. I picked the Steelers, but I don't know. I'm supposed to be the expert, and I'm looking at this game, and I'm like, I have no idea what happens here. My moral of the story, don't bet that game, because I don't know. So for Sports Around the Bar, we will be back on Tuesday. See, Ian's got the schedule down. I love he's heading out of here before talking to us about paying off that beer bet. I'm kidding. We will be back on Tuesday to hit the variety show. If you want to talk baseball, you want to talk about the Cubs firing Joe Madden, you want to talk about soccer, we'll talk about it on Tuesday. We'll be back for our variety show, as well as everything going on in these primetime games and Thursday Night Football. We hope to catch you guys there. So for Sports Around the Bar, any final thoughts before I close it off?
Saints win this one. Steelers win Monday.
Cowboys, Steelers. All right. Guys, we will see you on Tuesday. Have a good night. We'll see you then.
See ya.